Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 775. I started off with d4, and my opponent went d6. You see, that's a rare move, but not unheard of. It's fourth on the list, and there are various ways that black can continue after I play e4, which is the main move. You might as well put two pawns in the center if you get a chance. And there are ways to make a reasonable opening out of this, primarily knight f6, going for a neo-Philidor, also g6, going for a Pierce type of opening. So anyway, both of those would be reasonable alternatives, but not h6. h6 is pretty weird. And let's see, if I played knight to c3, I guess there's still some games that have been played that way. The move at least is in the database. There's no games, but the move is in the database. But anyway, I played f4, which is something I like to do, actually. f4 is a nice aggressive move looking at the king side. Of course, black could decide to castle queen side and avoid it, but you know, this also exerts some influence on the center. So when I can get away with playing f4, I often will do it. Let's see, we're just out of the opening book here, so let's continue. He goes knight f6, which looks like a reasonable move, actually. So he's just kind of given me a couple of tempi advantage by playing some sort of nondescript moves here. But now knight fd7, it's hard to find anything good to say about this move. He's just, maybe he's trying to see how many different opening principles he can violate and still survive. But anyway, yeah, he's moving the same piece twice in the opening, and he's putting his pawns on the third row and not putting anything in the center. So this can't be any good. Let's see, and actually, yeah, the chess engine says this opening was still salvageable at this point. White would still have an advantage, but would not be winning with a move like e5. And so that's why, actually, if we back up, I meant to mention this. When I played bishop d3, the chess engine already wants me to go ahead and play e5, which I play this in a few moves anyway. Kick that knight and gain a tempo and establish this big pawn center. So when I play bishop d3, it gives black a chance to play e5, and at that point he can sort of get to a playable opening. Let's see, one line goes like this: c3, c5, f takes, d takes, d takes. So it's a pawn sack line, but bishop g4, black gets some active play in exchange for the pawn. I'll move my queen, he'll move his knight. Maybe he'll round up one of those pawns. Anyway, white is still better, but at least black has gotten a few pieces out and has some things, some ideas. Anyway, so knight fd7. I should probably just win after this, although it's a long game. And, well, the other thing about playing in this fashion, the way black is played, is that he can play these moves very quickly. He doesn't have to think. So, and that is kind of unnerving. And it also cuts into the time that I have to think, because I'm used to thinking on my time and thinking on my opponent's time. And if he moves instantly all the time, then I only have half as much time to think. And, you know, I didn't play any blunders in this game, but it was a little bit lucky because there were certainly times when I moved too quickly to really assess the position. And so I think that's how, you know, players who play like this, I think that's how they score their points. They move quickly, build up a lead on the clock, and when their opponent starts having to move fast or just move with less time than what they're usually used to, then they can go for a counterattack. And in the meantime, this kind of setup, it takes a while to break it down. It may be losing, but it's not a quick loss. It'll take some time. Okay, so he goes a6, another silly move. I castle, and he goes e6. So he's got 4 pawns on the third row, and I went e5. So the chess engine thinks that's not the most accurate move here. It wants to play with c4 or develop a piece. But I like this c4 idea, just get a giant center. But I think even though the chess engine might question this move, I think it's a good practical decision, because it's hard to play these positions where the pawn center is fluid. You never know in this case whether black is going to play with a d5 break or an e5 break, and you don't know exactly how to position your pieces. Once you define the pawn center like this, you know how things are going to proceed a little better. You can have a better idea where to place your pieces, and it still keeps an edge because white still has a big space advantage. So I think a good practical decision. I would still play that kind of move. And let's see, he chose to play d5. The chess engine would still play with this c5 idea and try and get some activity there, but he just closes up the center. Although, you know, again, if you're going to be playing a lot of really fast moves, you want to keep the center closed. I mean, playing moves quickly, they're not fast moves, they're very slow moves. If you want to play all these slow moves quickly, you want to keep things closed so you can complete your maneuvers before you get blown out of the water. So anyway, at this point, I went with b3. The other way to proceed here is with bishop to e3. But b3, I think, is reasonable. It gives the bishop two diagonals to choose from. He went with g6 here, and I went with c4. That was the other purpose of b3, is to support another pawn in the center so I can undermine and maybe open things up, because at some point, to prove my advantage here, I'm going to have to open up some lines and just break through. But, well, this is just a tremendous edge for white. I'll just go on two more moves, c6 and knight c3. And let's look at this position. Black has one piece developed and has not castled. I have three pieces developed and I have castled, and I have more space as well. And I have the ability to open up some lines. So let's see, he went with bishop g7, and I started on the queen side with c takes d5, opening up a line over here. It's still not clear where black is going to castle. He could just be intending to keep the center closed. He has the option of castling kingside, and that's what happened in the game. But it's not a foregone conclusion that he would play there. The chess engine points out I can already play bishop a3. In fact, that would keep him from castling. That would keep him from castling on the king side, at least for a bit, and maybe encourage some exchanges over here on the queen side as he tries to desperately close that diagonal. So bishop a3 would have been a good move. I eventually get the bishop on that diagonal, but it takes me a while. Anyway, I went for the immediate opening because I don't, well, it's to my advantage to open things up. And so I just wanted to see if he was going to be able to hold things together if I just start opening some lines, and I was going to put some pressure on the c file here. Let's see, before he had committed to castling. Let's see, so he took, I played bishop b2. Once again, it looks like bishop a3 is the better diagonal for the bishop, but I wasn't sure at this point. He castled, and so now he's committed. I did a few more moves over on the queen side, but after b5, yeah, just one more move on the queen side. I was still thinking, you know, of this knight maneuver, and he ruled it out with that b5 move. So, so at this point, I switched my attention to the king side, and still I have this tremendous lead in development. All of his queenside pieces are on the back rank, and in any case, this is going to be a bad bishop. The light squared bishop is going to be having a lot of trouble getting into the game. I go king to h1, so I'm just preparing to push the g-pawn forward and put my rook behind it, so I need to get the king out of the way. He went knight to c6, went knight to e2, bringing my knight over to the king side. He went knight to e7, and I went g4 now. So it's kind of now or never. If I wait too long, he might be able to set up some kind of defense. So, but at this point, I've got a lot of pressure on the f5 square, and I think I can just force that through. So he went king h7. I went queen e1. Yeah, maybe I could have pushed f5 immediately, but queen e1 is also a good move. It's looking at these this diagonal, bringing my queen over to the h file, and also supporting a knight coming to h4. And he played f5, which really surprised me. I didn't think he was going to play a move like that, opening lines in front of his king. I think he just needs to sit there passively and wait for me to push my pawns forward. And the chess engine is recommending black play on the queen side. I think it's because he's got nothing else to do. It's hard to find a good square for the bishop. Maybe if he pushes both those pawns forward, he can bring the bishop out here. And that might be a way of activating that piece and making some sense of his queenside pieces. So f5 is definitely a blunder. It violates that rule that you should not move pawns in front of your king when you're under attack. And I think we see a good a good illustration of why that is. It just gives me the chance to open up some lines. So I took with the pawn, he took back with the knight. I was thinking, well, the chess engine says it doesn't matter. All moves lose or are losing by about the same amount. But I was thinking he might take with the pawn here and try and keep these pawns together. And the knight on e7 there is defending g6 as well as f5. So taking with the pawn gives me this passed pawn for the endgame, but it might hold his king side together against the attack. But I should still win in the long run. Anyway, so now I put my rook on the g file. When he moved his knight away, this pawn is a little bit loose. He went rook to g8, and I just took that knight off, and he took g takes f5, which yeah, it's hard to criticize that. I mean, because all the moves are kind of rough at this point. If he takes with the other pawn, you know, then I still have the idea of ganging up on the g6 pawn with the move like knight h4, and yeah, I can just pile up on it. Anyway, getting rid of that knight is getting rid of a key defender around the king. It allows my queen to come into the g3 square, which the knight was covered. So bishop takes f5, I think, is a good way to proceed. He took with the g pawn, and let's see, I went knight h4. Knight h4, the chess engine says, it gives away some of that advantage. So, so say starting move 10, I had like a +2 advantage, and I've kept that all the way through up to this point. The immediate queen g3, actually, a little bit counterintuitive, putting your queen against the rook. The rook is adequately defended, so he can play a move like bishop h8 and chase your queen off of that. But what I failed to appreciate is that queen h3 is a really strong move here. So he can trade, but I can bring a rook in. So that doesn't accomplish anything, just gets rid of this defender. And his king can't move, and the queen has a pin on the h-file. So now there's this big threat of knight to g4, which would drive the king to the g2 square, or g7 square, where it would be subject to a discovered check like knight there, picking up the queen. So anyway, yeah, black is just losing in this position. Things just fall apart in a hurry. So the immediate queen to g3 would have been winning right there. Knight h4 gives black a little bit of time to defend. And this is a point where I was moving too quickly. I should have really slowed down at this point and found the most precise way to finish the game. Let's see. After knight h4, he played bishop h8, which was a good move. I went to queen f2 so that my rooks are connected. And then if he had played the move rook to a7, then he's got some kind of defense here. I mean, white still has the advantage. The chess engine is still giving white a +1 advantage or more. But well, the game would continue, and mistakes can always happen. If you're in a worse position, that's what you want. You want to continue the game and try and trick your opponent in some way, try and induce some mistake. And anyway, rook a7 is a way to continue the game. Instead, he played rook takes g1 check. So this is violating a second major rule of defense, which is you don't want to bring your opponent's pieces into the attack. This exchange, if you think about it, it eliminated his defender, and I still have the same attacking piece because I was able to replace that rook with another rook. So this just changed the balance of power by one piece in my favor, that exchange did. So anyway, two rules to remember when you're defending that were broken here. One is don't move the pawns in front of your king, and the other is don't exchange off your defending pieces unless you are absolutely forced to. And especially don't do it if it brings your opponent's forces into the attack. So all of that. So now we're back to like a +2 advantage. I should have a winning attack here. But my attack was helped out quite a bit by this move, knight f8. And like I said, I was moving too quickly along here. I played the correct move, though. Queen g3 is a forced win. And the thing is, I didn't even realize why this move was winning. But the knight on f8 has blocked the queen's view of the back rank. So now there's a threat of checkmate on g8. And there's also a threat of checkmate on g6 if the knight moves. So the knight, by blocking the by blocking the queen there, has defended against one checkmate idea, or defended against this queen g6 idea, but it's prevented queen g8. So let's see, what could he have played here? Instead of knight f8, he could have played queen e8, holding on to both of these squares, and well, the game would continue with this big advantage to white, but I would have to maneuver around and find some way to attack. Anyway, I played queen g3, and he actually thought for a while here and then resigned because there is no defense. The longest defense is to play queen to g5 there to block the file, and I take the queen with the pawn, so I'm just a queen up. That is the way for black to last the longest. Other moves allow a checkmate in one, either here or here, or there's one other checkmate which is kind of pretty, so I'll go ahead and show it. He could save himself for a few moves by playing the move h5, and then the check here is no longer checkmate because the king can come here. So he gave himself a flight square. But then there's queen takes bishop check. The rook is guarding the escape, so he's caught in the crossfire of the queen and the rook, so he has to block with the knight. And my queen is hanging at the moment, but I have rook to g6 as a mate. So it's a very pretty mate. It's like the epaulette mate. The king's escape is blocked by a knight and a pawn, and the mate is delivered by a rook supported by a knight. Normally the epaulette mate features a queen here, but anyway, the knight next to the king supported by a piece is also a good way to deliver the epaulette mate. Okay, but anyway, he didn't want to play that out. You know, if he continued to move quickly, I might have played something other than the checkmating move. Let's see, but after queen g3, he resigned. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Maybe you learned a few things from that, and you know, hopefully you can find some way to play against those players who move so quickly and don't. They move quickly, they get into a bad position out of the opening, and somehow they still manage to turn the tables on you and win. So hopefully you have some ideas to counter that strategy. And I will see you again soon.